Hello, everyone. How's it going? We're all set up here, ready to go. Is everyone's audio working? Hello, hello, testing one, two, three.
Hi.
Yay!
I don't know. Are we doing it? We testing? We what? I don't know.
This is so close. Like, I feel like,
This is our setup for three.
hello,
So
listen to the words I say, everyone.
once Jeff joins us, then it'll go back to like a more zoomed out, relaxing setup. But this is like a panel here, okay? It's very serious. So we got to get up close and personal with chat, okay?
Sounds good.
I like it.
I'm ready to be intimate.
Awesome. So, like I said, Jeff will be joining us after the first segment. He works at Microsoft, so he can't really comment on the situation quite yet. So he opted to just wait until we get through that. But we have a really awesome show for you guys today. We're gonna be talking about a couple of like really hot topics in the industry right now that we feel is just really exciting to talk about. So, before we get into that, let's do our introductions. Starting with Ello. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey guys. I'm a variety streamer. I stream very early in the morning, usually like 4 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're in insomnia, then come, hang out. I've been doing this closing in on 9 years now. Been up, been down, been all around, man. So that's me. If you want to see anything about, if you want to like integrate any more than that, you can just go to the channel. It's got all the links. So twitch.tv/Ellohime. But otherwise, thank you for having me.
Awesome. And poor Steve's name tag is cut off, but that is something that we figured out yesterday, but just haven't fixed yet. So new production setup. Don't blame me, okay, chat. But Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. I'm Steve Saylor, aka Blind Gamer Steve on Twitch. I'm a Twitch ambassador, as well as a content creator. I'm an accessibility advocate and consultant in the video game industry. I've consulted on a few games you might have possibly played or know about. Last of Us 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, Watch Dogs Legion, and now recently Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, I'm just I'm a long-time content creator for like 15 years, and that's basically a little bit about me.
Awesome. So obviously we're gonna get started with the biggest news that has rocked the gaming industry. Microsoft is set to acquire Activision Blizzard for an astounding $68.7 billion. Guys, what was your first reaction upon hearing this news?
I think it was trending. Wait, what? Like it was wait, like hold on. Like I knew that Phil Spencer had said last month that they were reevaluating their working relationship with Activision Blizzard. I didn't expect them to be like reevaluating as in we're thinking to buying them, but that's essentially kind of what happened. So that was kind of my first reaction to it.
Yeah, that was clearly like an underhanded comment to say that and think, oh yeah, wow, they're standing up to all the rampant sexual harassment and abuse that's happening. They're actually like gonna make a stand. It's like, no, they have probably been in the talks to acquire Activision Blizzard for a while now, like before that was said.
Yeah, I was, yeah, it just felt like it was so out of left field. Like I was sitting there and I was reading, it took me a few times to read it. And I was like, wait, and I'm trying to wrap my head around the implications, which are like so far reaching and all over the place that I like quickly got a headache, and I was just like, I just got to roll with this. We just got to see what happens. I mean, to me, I feel like Blizzard's reputation is so tarnished at this point, both as like developer, and I'm saying this as an absolute super fan. I mean, I copied Chris Metzen's art in the original manual for Orcs and Humans. I'm a huge fan. And I love Blizzard, I really do. But like, I feel like things have been so, it's just, like it's an understatement to say like L after L after L, right? Like there's some really egregious stuff. There's some real bad things at the deep core of that company. So, when I think about Blizzard, I'm like, how do they come back from this? How do they, and like the last thing I was expecting was just like a complete takeover, but it makes a lot of sense on some levels.
Right.
Doesn't make me feel. It doesn't make me feel good that like some of those guys are walking away millionaires that should maybe be elsewhere.
Right.
That doesn't make me feel good. But if we're looking at it, strictly from a industry standpoint, it's an interesting move. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I mean, like, you talk about the reputation change. Like, is Microsoft able to save such a damaged brand? Like, I mean, to me, it was like Activision Blizzard was tanking, not only for, obviously the egregious sexual harassment and abuse that's been happening in the industry, in particular their company, but also just their games have been faltering. I mean, they've really kind of let a lot of their major games, just die in a sort of sense. Where's Overwatch 2 and, like the esports scene, like they haven't really been very supportive of that. Is Microsoft able to save Activision Blizzard?
I think it's a kind of a wait and see situation. I mean, the good thing is that at least Microsoft's current work structure and culture, we don't know a huge amount of kind of like the more day-to-day in and out of it, but from sort of the public perception and at least even knowing a few people at Xbox and at Microsoft, the work culture is definitely something that I think kind of reverberates throughout the entire company, whether it's just within Xbox in general or within the individual studios that they own. So I think in a way, this definitely Microsoft's work culture will definitely have an effect on Activision and Blizzard. And as someone like I've been through a large acquisition myself. Before I got into streaming and content creation stuff, I was working in the radio industry for 10 years. And when you work in radio, it's just inevitable that at some point, like, your station is going to be bought by a big company, and that happens more often than not. And sometimes stations change hands, change companies all the time. I went through at least 3 or 4 of them in my 10 years of in the industry. And when you have sort of like a culture that is just like the morale is extremely low, they're like you start to kind of like blame the management. Now in radio, at least at the time, we didn't have anything as toxic as what Activision Blizzard had, but you start to like as someone who like works on a team with people, you start to kind of feel like, what's the point of even being there? That's why we saw a lot of people even leaving Blizzard and Activision over the past several years en masse. But what I think and what I would expect it, and I've even heard some developers from both Activision and Blizzard and a few other studios within that sort of that umbrella, that this is kind of like the shot in the arm that they needed to kind of like, okay, I think we're going to be all right. Now, hopefully this deal comes through within the FTC and all that gets approved, but it gives them something to be like, okay, hopefully something will be better soon. And it kind of gives them something to motivation to keep going. And I think that in and of itself will motivate a lot more teams to kind of be like, okay, you know what? It's time to clean house. We've let this go long enough. Let's start fresh with something else and allow them to kind of like infuse their culture into ours.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ello.
Yeah, that's a perspective that I'm really excited to hear, is just the day-to-day employee, right? Like, how do they feel about this? Like, is this a breath of fresh air? Is this like, does this make them anxious? Is this like kind of a rallying thing? I haven't spoken to anybody that I know at Blizzard yet about it directly, because everything's so fresh, I'm sure they're still processing it, So, but I am curious about that. I wonder what the attitude is right now.
I think it's definitely a positivity. I do know one of my friends who does work at Blizzard, Nikki Crenshaw. She's the accessibility lead over there, and kind of did a lot of the accessibility that went into the Diablo 2 remastered. And she is excited because she gets to work, like, Microsoft has a reputation in the accessibility community of having a really great accessibility focused team, including a lot of different champions in many different aspects of the company and other studios. And she's excited to just basically kind of be a part of that team and hopefully have some some help in regards to kind of pushing more accessibility forward in the studio. I haven't talked to her personally as of yet, but I have, like, I mean, as a friend, like, we talk, and I would expect that, like, it's, in some aspects they're definitely like, okay, like, or let's go, like, they're excited, and hopefully you kind of like allow them to like, it allows them to kind of free up the ability to be able to kind of like work on maybe some passion projects that they haven't been able to because of the pressure that Activision puts on. Like, we forget that Activision used to own Bungie, and their MO with Destiny 2 was, we need to have a new expansion every year. Do the Call of Duty model. We need to have a new expansion every year, and it kind of wore Bungie ragged to the point where we're like, we gotta go, and they went independent, and from all what I've heard, it was like kind of like a creative shot in the arm for them to be like, okay, we can work on this on our own. Let's take the time to kind of like make this right. And I feel like that they kind of have been able to do that now that they're kind of outside of the Activision umbrella. And I think that in a way, this could be a shot in the arm for the 3 main Call of Duty studios to be like, you know what, we don't have to do annual Call of Duties anymore. We can just sort
concept.
like we can.
That's
we can
interesting.
actually, like,
Yeah.
Like, maybe have Treyarch kind of like, okay, you know what? We're going to take some time, develop the next thing, the next whatever Call of Duty or the next big franchise that could be within the Microsoft first party studios umbrella. Like, they don't, like, it doesn't have to be the Call of Duty and Overwatch house anymore.
Yeah, I think there is, a feeling of hopefulness and I think an opportunity for things to really change. But, as we've seen, these things take a lot of time. It's not just Microsoft. Even when the acquisition does get approved by the government and everything's Gucci, it takes a long time to see the effects of a transition happen. We have our own story right here with Twitch being acquired by Amazon. And at first it was very much Amazon's hands off. Twitch is still doing its thing. Do we know even how much Microsoft is promising to really, kind of take over? It's interesting to have like a completely different viewpoint on how the acquisition should be handled. Where, with Twitch, it was like, Amazon, don't touch Twitch. Like, stay far away. Like, we don't want interference. And that's what they said. They said, we're not going to touch Twitch. Of course, that didn't last very long. We see how Twitch is now. It's changed a lot under Amazon's pressure. But, for Activision, it's like, how soon can Microsoft get on this? I think that's a really interesting, just complete shift in dynamic. And I think it's going to be a while before we really see, those changes really affect Activision Blizzard.
I feel like it's a tightrope, right? Because I think that they have necessary changes that they're going to need to make, right? But also, I think most companies that take over for that sort of sum of money generally allow whoever they take over the autonomy to continue working the way that they have,
right?
So there's going to be this weird in between area that they're going to have to find like a very delicate balance between those two ideas. How do they keep Blizzard functional, running, raise morale, and also make the changes necessary to, make it a safe environment for the employees, and other, and like you said, I mean, just their development of games, I think quality has slid, so they have to address that as well. I hope, what Steve said is kind of the direction it goes, where they feel like they have more resources and time and autonomy, and they can really stop trying to just make the bottom line and try to make some really creative games, which is what got them where they are to begin with. I think this is an opportunity to go back to basics in a way. I don't know how realistic that is, but I can hope, I can dream.
Yeah. I think we could even saw that with with Double Fine. I think I remember reading some or hearing something that Tim Schafer, when Xbox acquired them as a studio, it kind of gave him the ability to just focus in on the game itself, there he didn't have to worry about the admin of running a studio, whether it's the finances or HR, like all that stuff that he, like, as a studio head, you would have to kind of worry about all the time and constantly be kind of taking your attention away from the thing that you want to be doing, which is making games. So having that kind of like being the Microsoft Xbox umbrella, they can really be like, okay, like we can just focus in on doing the thing that we do best, and that's make games. Now, I agree with you. Their quality is kind of like lapsed over the past several iterations,
resting on their laurels at the least, right?
Yeah,
at the
exactly.
least.
Yeah, and I think that like there's going to be some things that are going to I think it's going to definitely take time. This is not something that, I mean, we obviously know that this is going to take time for even that the full acquisition to kind of finally be approved.
If it does get approved, like
that's also true too. We haven't even talked about the monopoly aspect of it yet, but I mean, even when we look back at the Bethesda sort of acquisition, that took, I think, 6 to 8 months, I think, before they were able to, like, when they announced the intent to when they actually were able to say, okay, yeah, now Microsoft owns them. But also as well, like, this is not a insignificant amount of money to spend on a large company like this. Like, I think this might have been like one of the, like,
the largest.
It makes. Yeah, the largest. It makes
that's
like
a lot of money.
The Disney Lucasfilm or Disney Marvel acquisition look like pocket change. Like it just, and I think I remember even reading that. I think this was literally half of the money that Microsoft had in cash on hand. So it's a pretty big amount. It's not pocket change in Microsoft's sense, but it's definitely like a huge chunk into the savings that Microsoft had on hand. So I think they're going to want to be able to obviously like make this this acquisition fruitful and kind of multiply into different aspects. So I'm hoping that this will kind of be like, okay, yeah, let's get to work and I was about to make a really bad joke, but no. I'm just
I have to do that so frequently.
I was gonna do something about making something great. Anyway, but no, I think it's.
To add to your point, I think that we should take at least a little comfort in the amount of money that was spent on this to like trust that Microsoft has some sort of plan. You know, like like you don't jump into something that big without, you know, at least having a good understanding of what you're getting into and what you can do with it long term. You know, so it doesn't seem frivolous. You know, it seems.
For sure.
Like a very strong step forward.
But it is like their own plan. And you know, when we talk about acquisitions like this, I mean, it was literally just a few days ago where Take-Two announced that they are making a pool for, you know, mobile mogul Zynga for like $12.7 billion. And we just start talking about like, you know, the top two biggest acquisitions in the gaming industry have just happened this week, and you know we're talking about tens of billions now in terms of money. Is there any concern that, you know, the gaming industry is consolidating too much, where, you know, are we looking at just a few companies up top kind of controlling pretty much everything at this point?
That's a good question. I think so. To a certain degree, I come at this with like cautious optimism, because of course, like as a gamer, that's been Microsoft's focus over the past several years. Like, this is a cool idea. Hey, I can be able to play a lot of the games that have been around for a long time and huge franchises on Game Pass, which is going to be kind of like their biggest sort of selling point with having these games in that vast library that Activision, Blizzard, and King even have. I think that, I mean, if you kind of look at sort of even the stats of kind of like the largest sort of gaming companies, it's even with this acquisition, it only puts Microsoft at third behind Sony and Tencent. And so they're not even like the biggest company. I think they're just, it's just one that Microsoft is basically kind of like taking a sort of a play out of other studios and other companies' books. But I think that, in a way, I don't know. It's weird. It's like I want to see Microsoft and Xbox succeed, but I also like, because I know that it'll breed competition. It'll hopefully put a fire under Sony's butt to be like, hey, what are we doing? I bet that like there was probably some very angry phone calls on Sony's end yesterday morning when that announcement went through, being like, hey, Jim Ryan, WTF. But I think it in a way it will breed competition, which is a good thing for us. But I think also as well it could hopefully add a bit more quality control to the studios that we've like at least to a certain degree over the past 20, 30 years have loved, that we would love to kind of see come back again and be good. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. It's good and it's also not good.
Like I feel like there's enough diversity with indie gaming and you know, up and coming. Like we've seen so many successful indie games like pop up out of nowhere that I feel like we still have plants that are growing. You know, like I don't feel like the garden is stagnant. I feel like we're still creatively moving forward. I think when it comes to like, if we're, you know, sectioning off like the bigger companies, I think what it comes to is accessibility. When like really when it comes down to like the player base, because right now we have so many things that we're dabbled in. You know, like we've got BattleNet, we've got Steam, we've got Origin, we've got Uplay, we've got, you know, like, and everybody's kind of trying to get their own piece of the pie.
Yeah.
You know, and what it's leaving us is having to like be on Epic for some things and this for some things and stuff like that. So what I'm really interested in is how they're going to package some of these, you know, like BattleNet experiences. I would love to see like WoW on like Game Pass or like something like that. So I think in a way, in a way, it may stifle creativity at the top, but accessibility and making it easier for the consumer, it might benefit quite a bit.
Yeah, Game Pass is something that has, you know, had tremendous value, so much so that Sony's trying to do their own version of that now. You know, is this like, you know, just speaking, kind of going a little bit outside of this specific conversation, do you think that, like, is this going to be like kind of like the new thing? Instead of buying video games, you just sign up for Sony and sign up for Game Pass, and, you know, you just get everything through those now?
It depends. Are they going to charge us $80 a game? You know, like, I mean, there's a lot into that. What do you think, Steve?
It's interesting to see the two strategies that Microsoft and Sony have been playing. Sony is still playing off of, I think, a very tried and true playbook of, okay, new console, let's get people onto the new console, let's get people buying new games for the console, and it's kind of always focused mostly on that. Obviously, with the pandemic, that has kind of like changed and like broadened that to a certain degree, even to the point where they're actually producing like 1 million more PS4s just to try to be able to kind of combat with some of the like at least the chip shortage to be able to build PS5s. But you start to, but when you look at like Microsoft, they're playing off of a new playbook that kind of has been working at least in the entertainment industry for quite a while. Obviously, like the comparison of Game Pass being called the Netflix of gaming is not that far from the truth. But I think what benefits them from on Game Pass that no other entertainment streaming platform or app or whatever or network has is that you can still buy the games even outside of Game Pass. There's still that like you can still support the developer that way, as well as like playing it on Game Pass, because Microsoft will pay studios money to be able to be on the Game Pass platform. So it doesn't exclude them for developers, even the small kind of indie ones, from being able to do that. So it'd be interesting to kind of see how Sony tackles this. Obviously with Project Spartacus kind of being in rumor and kind of hopefully being announced supposedly any day now. At least they said, like, I think within like the spring of 2022, early 2022, of whatever that'll be. And they're sort of saying that it combine PS Plus into PS Now, and it would like, I think in a way both will serve each other's audiences pretty well. But I think when you have to like look at the comparison between the two, I think we just got to wait and see what, like, is Sony gonna like go in the corporate sort of playbook or their old playbook, or are they gonna try something new and different? And yeah, it'd just be interesting to kind of see what they do.
I think the only like constant is that, like, I think we realize that across the board, the entertainment, like, subscription based is the thing right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do with that mentality, but that's, I think, going to, now, is it going to go as far as, you know, like we just have a video game library like you suggested? I don't know, but yeah, I think that it's all subscription based stuff now. It's just how they package it at this point.
Right. I mean, it is really good value for the consumer. Like to be able to pay like what is Game Pass like 8-10 bucks a month or something like that. Like something super really affordable, and you get access to day one titles. Like that's a super compelling thing when you have Microsoft or Sony like owning so many like IPs. I mean, we have now Bethesda is under Microsoft, right? So now it's like, I mean, you're gonna get all these exclusive titles and that's another problem is, I think there's gonna be a point where we're kind of forced to get Sony and Xbox or Microsoft, things because of just how exclusive things will be, right? Like you might need both consoles now or something.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely newer. I mean, newer to the, at least if you like, I hate calling it console wars, and I hate that like console wars is a thing because I don't think like it's just play however you want to play. But this is kind of like the new version of console wars. But I think actually I even heard, can't remember who said it. Might have been it might have been someone from Kind of Funny yesterday. But I think it's not necessarily console wars, it's content wars. We're gonna like see like you don't spend in both Bethesda and Activision's case, you don't spend $70 billion and $7 billion for things to stay the same and not be exclusive.
Yes.
Guarantee within a couple years, we're going to see Call of Duty being sort of the exclusive game for Xbox, and maybe Warzone kind of being multi-platform because it currently is in that sense, and maybe that's the only one that's multi-platform. And obviously, we're seeing that even with Bethesda, that Starfield, one of the newest, the newest IP that Bethesda has had in years, is going to be exclusive to Xbox and PC. So I think it's going to be like, and not to even knock Sony either. Sony has amazing exclusives
right.
in their library. Everything from Naughty Dog, Guerrilla, Insomniac. Like Insomniac really just hit the ball running. They were like, when they got like acquired by Sony, they were just like, hey, you know what? We don't want to be like the stepchild of under Naughty Dog's rule. Let's just be our own and like go nuts. And so they did with kind of being the first titles on the PS5. But I think it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, do you need to have both consoles? It's going to be hard because not everyone can afford $500.
Well, let me take
$1,000 for both.
Let me take us down a third path here with cloud gaming. All right, because I think that, listen, GeForce Now is not far off, man. It really isn't. Like if it's not there. Like I've used it. It's phenomenal. It's what we wanted Stadia to be. Yeah. So the third option here that, maybe we're missing is that like consoles become obsolete, because and not that they would become obsolete, but like when the packaging happens, there's a cloud gaming to make it even more accessible, because you want the subscriptions, right? You want the accessibility. Now, is cloud gaming ever going to be the same as owning your own console? No. So when I say obsolete, I shouldn't have said obsolete.
I know
there's
what
always
you mean,
going to be
though,
people, there's always going to be people that want the hardware, right? And I think those people are always going to be there. But there's plenty of people that would love to dabble into, like you guys are talking about, multiple consoles, and they can maybe be able to do that cheaply through cloud gaming.
Yeah, and right now Microsoft definitely has the edge for that, because last year they released the ability to be able to have cloud gaming on older Xbox consoles, where you can be able to play Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5 that would be, technically are exclusive to the Series X and S consoles, but are playable on older Xbox consoles. Like I had a friend of mine who has an Xbox One, I think S or X, and he was able to play Halo Infinite through cloud gaming, and that is something that Microsoft has been very good at being able to support backwards compatibility in that sense. So you're right. I think in a certain degree, we probably won't need consoles as much, and even Phil Spencer has kind of said that when the Bethesda acquisition kind of was finalized, that Bethesda games will be on whatever platform Xbox is on. And he specifically said platform. He didn't say console. He said platform. So that includes like cloud gaming on your PC, your tablet, or your phone. And now that also as well, one thing we hadn't touched on yet, Microsoft now owns King, which is a giant mobile company. And so they never really kind of had a sort of a foothold in the mobile gaming space. until now. And I like, that's I mean, Candy Crush alone, like, let's just like, they now own Candy Crush, so, or they will eventually own a Candy Crush if it goes through. But I like, that's going to be a big sort of foothold into being able to build out that cloud gaming, so that you can be, you can be able to currently play Halo on your phone right now, but who knows what that'll be like power wise down the line, as phones and other devices kind of get more powerful, and the cloud gaming, when like sort of like the broadband kind of becomes a little bit more mainstream and easier access.
Can I tell you how crazy it was seeing the lineup of games, and it was like StarCraft, Diablo, like, you know, Warcraft, and Candy Crush. Like, you know, like, and I was like, well, like, in its own right, it's a big swinger, you know, like it's just crazy to see the game that like my grandmother loved playing, like chilling right next to the games that I grew up with. You know, it was funny. I just thought it was kind of comical.
Yeah,
but,
I love that too. Yeah, I saw that graphic and I was like, what? Like, it just seems like it's like one of these things just doesn't seem like they belong, but yeah, they totally do. And that's the thing too. We kind of like we always kind of forget or kind of like push aside in the mobile gaming market. But literally, I think it was like a story that of like the top CEOs or top earning CEOs in the gaming space, and like the top like 3 own or at least run mobile gaming companies, and and they're making money by a large margin.
That's the money. Yeah, that's the money.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we just saw the Zynga acquisition. And I mean, you know, it's almost like funny to see companies go after mobile now, because, you know, it's been such a huge market, right? And it seems like it's almost underrated, but everyone has a phone. Like, you know, you may not have a console or be able to afford a PC, but everyone has a phone. So
Lowco, hold on a second. Have you heard of Raid Shadow Legends? Steve, have you heard of Raid?
Tell us about this. Is this a sponsored segment?
Chat, listen. Guys, I'm here to talk to you about Raid Shadow Legends. The most incredible mobile gaming experience. Wait, mobile games make a lot of money? You don't say. I've only seen that everywhere.
You know what's funny about that is I actually did a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship, and then I got addicted to Raid. I still play it. Okay, I've been playing it for 2 years since I got that sponsored stream.
You know, I saw that there was an opportunity.
I was deep into Summoner's War.
I saw something come through that it was like Raid Shadow Legends. I'm like, oh, do I really want to do that sponsorship? Maybe, like, I don't know.
Dude, my thing is like, make the bag, man. Like, make the bag. Like, it's not a bad game.
It's
just
not. That's the funny thing.
The people who play it and they are going to engage in it likely understand the kind of mobile gaming experience they're going to have, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be places you're going to have fun. There's going to be plenty to do, but there's always going to be these boundaries and roadblocks, and it is what it is. But I'm like, you know what? I feel like people are getting, you know, sponsored and creators are getting supported, and it's like, go for it. Have it. Get at it.
I was really impressed with like how in depth that game actually is. But you know, talking a little bit more about the Sony versus Microsoft situation, you know, it's really interesting because it was only like a year, 2 years ago that I was harping on Xbox and Microsoft, like, step up. Like, you know, Sony is crushing you right now. Like, the PS4, the exclusive titles that Sony has, like, they are completely dominating over Xbox. Like, my old Xbox, what is it, X? What's the old series? I don't even remember the naming convention for the Xbox consoles, but the previous generation, like, was a paperweight on my desk for pretty much the entire time.
Xbox One?
Yep, the Xbox One.
You mean the Netflix one?
That's
all I used it for. That's all I used it for was I call it the Netflix one.
And to be fair, like, yes, Microsoft does have a lot of titles on PC, and that is a huge advantage for them. But they really did not have the compelling exclusive titles. So then we started to see E3 and Game Awards. We started to see Microsoft is acquiring this gaming studio and this one and this one, and now we have you know, this massive acquisition here. And now, you know, now we're looking at Sony being like, your turn, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think Microsoft, like, that Xbox One sort of direction that they took was obviously like a failing point for Xbox, and it definitely did push Sony to being kind of the dominant. Like they won that the previous generation. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like they dominated the industry with the PS4, and including even memeing Microsoft by that video that just went super viral of like, here's how to share a game on PlayStation. Here you go. And so I think it obviously was a reputation that Xbox had to kind of regain, and I think they were able to, like, I think starting around 2016, 2017 is when they really started kind of like making that push forward. I think once Phil Spencer took over as head of Xbox, and who was someone that has been a part of Xbox for a long time previously, so he knew, like, he was part of the DNA of Xbox. I think was an amazing choice, because like he sort of saw whatever writing on the wall to kind of push Xbox forward, and was able to introduce Game Pass and obviously kind of like improve the quality of the Xbox One by creating the Xbox One X and S, and then started kind of like building up more studios and adding more studios. Like they own now 30 studios that are exclusive first party studios, obviously with the Activision Blizzard today. So I think that right now Xbox is kind of on the roadmap to basically being dominant again, because they used to dominate with the Xbox 360. Like that was the console to have, and then the next generation of the PS4 was the console to have. Now I think right now it's going to be interesting to see, okay, what will sort of win out. Is Game Pass going to be the main thing? Because they just did announce that they've increased their user base to 25 million people have a Game Pass account.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that number.
Yeah, because they like, and to put in perspective, last year they made an announcement that they were at 18 million.
Wow.
So they grew like over 30% in 1 year of Game Pass subscribers. Now, obviously that could have mean that because Xbox kind of like had a really good run in the last half of last year with Psychonauts 2 and Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite launching within that period of time. So obviously that kind of drew an extra subscribers to that. But that's 25 million. That's a huge number to like. You can't you can't shake that. Like that's
right.
So yeah, we'll like, I think Xbox is on the proper roadmap to I don't know, to dominate or to be able to win out. But I think we like, the one thing that is for sure, gamers are going to win in the end, because we get to just have access to amazing games on really cool platforms and stuff like that. And I'm saying this as someone who is an Xbox MVP too. I would love to see still Sony win. I want to see Sony kind of like, hey, okay, you know what? Let's shake the dust off of everything and just be like, okay, let's hit the ball running, because they have yet to kind of do that. Even though the PS5 is sort of the dominant console right now, or top selling, we don't know.
We need some games. Yet. Where are the PS5 games, man? Like
exactly. Like Insomniac is the only one right now, basically.
I'm a little outside of my depth on this one, but like from my perspective, I wish that Microsoft would stop trying to compete so much with Sony. I wish they would just focus on their path and just move forward. Like, I feel like Sony right now is in such a good position. I feel like they're just very confident. Like, they're confident about what they're doing and how they're moving forward. And I would love to see that sort of confidence from like Xbox and Microsoft, like moving forward.
That's fair.
I feel like I don't know why, but I get this sort of insecure feeling. I don't know why. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, but as well, that confidence can kill you, because that's what happened to Sony with going in from the PS2 to the PS3. Like, they were really confident
true.
that the PS3 was gonna win out in the end, and it didn't. So every cycle, every generation, it kind of like flip-flops. It goes from Sony to the Xbox to Sony again to now. I don't see the insecurity in that sense that you are. I mean, maybe they're seeing something that I'm not, but right now I think it's Xbox is now executing on the plan that they started in motion 5-6 years ago. And I think obviously we see that Microsoft ain't done yet. Like buying Activision Blizzard, that's a big step forward in that plan.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what else happens with just acquisitions in this industry. Who knows if Microsoft's even done yet? They've made a ton of moves over the last year or two. It really does show that they're serious and ramping things up. But we'll keep an eye on how things shake up throughout the year.
And I
see
do
if this
see in the
actually goes
chat some
through.
people talking about Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but yes, they are part of the conversation, but Nintendo gonna Nintendo. They're gonna they're gonna do their own thing and we'll just follow along.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're they've always been in their own little island. They don't really compete directly. So
that's
kind
of what I'm talking about. I would love to. That's exactly my point, though, is that we're not putting Nintendo in all this because Nintendo is sort of its own thing, its own identity, its own path, its own. That's what I would love to see from Microsoft, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I always feel like we can't talk about Microsoft without mentioning, Sony.
Yeah.
I would love to have a conversation about just them separately and what they're doing or accomplishing, outside of each other.
Yeah.
Not in spite of each other.
Yeah.